I'm Koeppel from Kretz Lumber. I'm one of the foresters, and today what I'd like to do is introduce you to Jim Brandt. He's a landowner in Shawano County, and Jim and Yvonne, unfortunately Yvonne couldn't be with us today, but Jim and Yvonne own how many acres out here?
480.
480 acres. Started out that Jim's father started purchasing property back here, and then Jim, eventually the property became Jim's, and his father started out doing some logging plus some other things, and I'm going to turn it over to Jim to kind of fill in the gaps in the history of the property.
Well, my father, I think, acquired this. It had to be in the early 40s, I'm assuming. And he just bought it kind of as a business venture. I really don't know the reason, but then he swapped different 40s, and well, pretty soon he started logging it, and everything was done the old-fashioned way, a single axle truck, a horse, hired man, and myself. We were the ones that started with them, and it was rough going at times. We started with a dray, and the horse would pull it out and then put it on a pile, and he hauled the product to Kimberly at the time. And at that time you couldn't get rid of the hardwood pulp, so we were just logging popple. Then eventually we did find a few spots where there were logs. It isn't like today. It's grown considerably since when my dad had it. I don't always see the growth because I see it a lot, but other people tell me that it grew, really well. So.
One of the things that Jim has going for him out here is he has very good soil out here. And part of the reason that this is an agricultural land is Liz pans the camera and you take a look at the number of rocks throughout the woods. Some farmers did try clearing this land, but the tremendous amount of rocks made it impossible to create farmland. And Jim's goal has always been to take very good care of this property. He has 3 children, 2 daughters and a son.
Correct.
And someday this will be their property. And so Jim wants to have it in better shape when they take over than when he owned it. This particular stand that we're standing in is what we call the Northern Hardwood Stand. And what's kind of interesting with they're standing on the logging road here, and where Liz just panned, we're looking at primarily a red maple stand, which Jim is managing on a even age basis, where most of the trees off to Liz's right are all about the same age. Behind Jim and I is more of what we call a Northern Hardwood stand. I'll wait till Liz catches up with her camera. She's kind of slow there, kind of a rookie at this. So anyway, over here, this Northern Hardwood stand consists of basswood, red oak, white ash, hard maple, and some red maple are the primary species in there. And Jim's goal in managing this is to have trees of multiple ages. And as we start out, it started out as an even age stand. And over the years, Jim, I think, did you do some TSI, non-commercial TSI work in this stand?
Correct.
Okay, and what I mean by non-commercial TSI work is Jim came in, cut down small, poor quality suppressed stems, which weren't merchantable at the time. So he put sweat equity into getting the stand to where it is today. Before Jim retired, he worked out, and then also he had a skidder and did some of the logging himself. Jim had a lot of pride in the logging that he did, and some of the best tools working with this man I learned a lot. Jim always challenged my marking, and I appreciated that because I would mark the stand. Jim was doing the logging. If he disagreed on a tree that I had marked, he'd wait until we were done scaling logs, and we'd go for a walk, and he would say, "Now, why did you mark this? I want to leave it." So we would have a discussion on whether the tree should be harvested or left. And it was pretty much a split. Half the time you won, half the time I won. So it was kind of a split. And there's no magic or any definite answer in forestry. There's always a lot of gray areas where you're not totally 100% sure. And whether you take one tree or leave one tree, in the big scheme of things, doesn't really matter. It's the trend of wanting to always grow higher quality trees. And so here's a stand that I've marked twice for Jim. And it was interesting too, talking about the history of logging. Jim starting out working with horses, and you might want to explain to him what a dray is. Many people probably don't know what a dray is. And then talk about Leroy and his equipment that did the last harvest for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim and let him explain a little bit about the history and progression of logging equipment.